Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Hello, everybody. This is Guineith Isaacs speaking here, keeping the chair warm for Vincent again today. Gosh, we have got a full platter today of things to talk about. First of all, what I would like to sort of deal with, I'll get the intro over first. We can take calls today, if Jason is able to. I can't see the call screen because I'm calling from my cell phone in Australia. But if Jason wants to take calls, I'm sure he will be able to patch them through. And the phone number is 866-582-9933. So otherwise, I'll get on with talking about what I've got lined up to talk about today. And today we're going to be discussing a couple of topics. But first of all, I'd like to discuss something that has been on my mind over the last week or so, and that is actually more than a week. It's been quite a while. The psychology of preparedness and what it really, really takes to mentally get through these things that are coming on the earth. If you are not psychologically prepared for what's coming down the track, you will not make it through. That's just no way. There's no two ways about it. You have to be mentally prepared. There's a movie out there on the internet. It was on the internet. I'm not sure what happened to it. It was on YouTube for the longest time. And then I think it became successful. So like everything that becomes successful on YouTube, it gets removed. It was put out by Disney Pixar, and it was called Inside Out. And I think that it still is on YouTube, but it's as a paid movie rather than a free movie these days. And in this movie, Inside Out, it covers the journey, the childhood of a girl called Riley, and the three inner components of her personality, which we all have. By the way, these inner components of personality, we have, gosh, what was that? Sorry, I just had I had a bug land on me. It's at night here. It's, I've got a few solar lamps on. The fire's on, but it's been raining today. We've got maybe, 2 or 3 inches of rain this afternoon. And I think that it was a queen ant, because when it tends to rain, the queen ants come out, and I just had one land on me from the darkness, so that was what that was about. Anyway, we all have these 5 psychological components to our personality, okay? They are happiness, they are sadness, or happiness, sadness, fear, or neuroticism, and disgust, and anger. Okay? And these are the 5 components that are in the movie that live in the movie Inside Out. They live as, kind of people inside Riley's head. And then they have all these discussions and agreements and, about what she should do in this circumstance or that circumstance or whatever. But Dr. Jordan Peterson is a really, really interesting guy. He's been giving lectures on the internet for many, many years, posting lectures on various psychological topics, including this one about the 5 components of the personality and how we need to deal with them. Okay? Now, the component of joy or happiness or optimism, you might think that that's often what gets you through, and that is what keeps you, or that is the happy side of your nature. Okay? But then you've got the fear, which is the neuroticism, which is thinking about everything that will go wrong, everything that might go wrong, everything that has gone wrong, and everything that is going wrong at the moment. Now, fear is what keeps you safe. That's a very important thing in a collapse scenario. You need to not just dismiss your fears, okay, in a scenario where things are falling apart, because often it's your fears that will motivate you to action to actually keeping you safe. Like, for instance, me personally at home, I wouldn't say that I'm frightened of the dark. In fact, I'm the opposite of frightened of the dark. I like the dark. I like going for walks in the dark. But you can bet that if anybody met me when I was walking in the dark, that they would have their hands full, because I wouldn't be frightened, but I would be prepared, because I wouldn't be just walking out naively thinking that everything's going to be okay in the dark. That's an example. I live in a fairly, I live out in the middle of nowhere. But if I was living in a city, I would certainly be a lot more apprehensive about just walking around in the dark as a woman at night. That's an example of how fear can keep you safe, because I know for sure in Melbourne's never been a very safe city to walk around in the dark. But even in Melbourne, when I was there, I wasn't particularly frightened of the dark. Okay, I would still go out in the dark. I would ride my push bike around. I would catch trains in the middle of the night or in the early hours of the morning or whatever. And I would just rely on the other components of my personality to keep me safe. Namely, I'm a fairly disagreeable person. And that's another component. The component of disagreeableness that I think in the Inside Out movie that gets portrayed as anger is actually a little bit more complicated than that. You'll have to go and listen to some of Jordan Peterson's lectures on the components of personality. And I think he's got a series at the moment on his YouTube channel called The 12 Pillars of Wisdom. Okay? And so if you go and listen to them, these lectures are about 12 hours long. Sorry, not 12 hours long. Each lecture is around about 2 hours long. So all in all, this lecture series, which he hasn't completed yet, Okay, but when it's completed, it'll be about 24 hours of classes. You should feel very honoured that you can sit in the lecture theatre virtually with Jordan Peterson and, listen to his lectures, because this guy, if you wanted to talk about reincarnation, Jordan Peterson would be the reincarnation Carl Jung. Okay, and Carl Jung was the most important psychologist and psychiatrist of the 20th century, because it was Carl Jung that really brought to the fore the idea of metaphor in psychology. And if you want to know what all of this means, go onto YouTube and listen to some of the lectures of Carl Jung. They're there. Either he's reading them, because there was audio recordings invented in his time. He died in about 1960. But there was also written lectures that people read out, and there's audio book by Carl Jung that people read out. And I would recommend, if you want to learn about psychology and the psychology of preparedness and the psychiatry of preparedness, to go and listen to some of Carl Jung's lectures and Jordan Peterson's lectures. Okay? But today what we're going to be discussing is how you can use your own psychology and your own psychiatry to be more prepared. Because there's the biggest thing that has been affecting people here in lockdown Victoria over the last 12 months has not been people dropping dead in the streets. There have been no people dropping dead from the coronavirus in the streets here in Victoria. It has not been happening. But what has been happening is people have been going crazy. We have been having to deal with mass mental illness on a grand scale. And it's even been people that, have never had a problem with mental illness in the past. And because of the stress of all of this lockdown, the government changing its mind every 50 seconds about what it's requiring, and the masks which are creating a situation of hypoxia, which is leading to brain damage, and people behaving in group psychology as a brainwashed mass. Okay? Brainwashed mass psychology is quite something to behold, and it's what we've been beholding here in Victoria. If you know about psychology, if you know about psychiatry just a little bit, then your chances of being able to make it through this with your own psychology and your own psychiatry intact are going to be so much better. Now I can hear the music. That means that we're going into an ad break. And after the ad, then I'll talk a little bit about what it means to be disagreeable. Hello, everybody. This is Guineith Isaacs speaking again. Back from the break, keeping the chair warm for Vincent today. And what we're talking about today is the psychology of preparedness and what it's going to take mentally for people to get through the things that are coming down the track, and in fact the things that are already here. There's a very, very important component of preparedness, the psychology of preparedness, okay, that I'm going to detail for a little bit, and that is agreeableness versus disagreeableness, okay? And what that means, agreeableness is your ability to get along with other people, okay? That's obviously really, really, really important, to be able to get along with other people, because even in a completely collapsed world, you're going to have probably somebody living next door to you. Even if that next door to you is 3 miles down the track, they're still next door to you. And, you know, this is it. Even if you think that you're on a ranch in the middle of nowhere, there is going to be a ranch next door, and you're either going to get along with the people next door or you're not going to get along with the people next door. And your level of agreeableness is going to have a lot to do with whether or not that happens, okay? Because you need to be able to speak with them, you need to be able to negotiate with them, and you need to be able to work with them. And you can't do any of those things if you're a completely disagreeable person. But you have to have a certain amount of agreeableness to be able to speak with people. But you also, ironically, you have to have a high level of disagreeableness in order to negotiate with people, especially in a collapsed situation. And you might be thinking, well, how does that even happen? How can you be highly agreeable and highly disagreeable at exactly the same time? And it's very easy, actually, because I think Winston Churchill said it best of all. He said, walk softly and carry a big stick. Okay? If you are overly agreeable, nice, sit under an olive tree and chant Kumbaya, you're not going to make it through this. I can tell you that for sure. Because personally, I know people who are of that nature. They're beautiful, beautiful people, and I love these people. But they're having trouble now coping with all that's happening here in Victoria. And it's not even gotten as bad as what it's going to get. It's just the opening act. So you need to have a certain amount of disagreeableness to be able to get through, because it's the disagreeable, it's the agreeable part of your nature that enables you to talk to people without it being an argument. It's the agreeable part of your nature that enables you to have an intelligent, happy conversation. Okay? People that are 100% disagreeable are often in prison because they are the times to turn into, completely psychopathic monsters. And you don't want to be a completely psychopathic monster. There has to be a good person in there somewhere, or, you're not going to be able to look at yourself in the mirror in the morning. Or if you can and you are that sort of monster, then, you've got really, really big problems. And you're going to have to face Almighty God one day. But you need to be, at exactly the same time that you're agreeable, you need to be very disagreeable. And I'll go into what it means to be really disagreeable on the other side of the ad, at the bottom of the hour break. Okay. God bless you all. I'll speak with you soon. Hello, everybody. This is Guineith Isaacs speaking here, keeping the chair warm for Vincent again today. And today we're talking about the psychology of preparedness and what it will take for you to psychologically make it through the things coming down the track. And in this segment, once again, we'll be focusing on the component of disagreeableness, okay, which is the opposite of agreeableness. And agreeableness is that part of your personality, your psychology that enables you to speak with people, have a rational conversation, and be a nice person. And you have to have that nice person within you, because if you don't have the nice person within you, And if you are completely disagreeable, then you're likely to be the type of person who becomes a bank robber or a serial killer, and you don't want to be that, okay? But you also need to have stored in your psychology the capacity to be a highly disagreeable person as well. Because if you don't, then you're going to be a doormat and you are going to be a target for every really serious criminal out there. And criminals seem to have a sixth sense for people that they can easily target. Okay? You know, there's, I've heard so many times police say, yeah, we just want to go home at night. Yeah, we all want to go home at night. Criminals want to go home at night too. Okay? Many of them have got families and they use their crime to provide for their families, or they use their crime to provide for their addiction or whatever. But they want to go home. And but your job as being the potential victim of a crime is to make it reasonably certain that they won't go home at night. The criminals, that is, no matter if they come wearing a uniform or if they come wearing no uniform or whatever. If they are there to hurt you, they are your enemy, and you need to make sure that they either don't show up or that they go away empty-handed, or if they don't go away empty-handed, if they do show up and, they don't go away, then it needs to be because you have made sure that they won't go away because, they won't be able to go away. I need to, put in a regular disclaimer here. I am not advocating violence, okay? I am not advocating people go out there and hurt other people, but you have the right to defend your own life, and you have the right to defend your property, especially when there's no one to call. And around here, there's no one to call. So if I have somebody come into my land wanting to do me harm, they have to face me in my disagreeable nature. And I think that word has gotten out there in the local community that I have a disagreeable side. I have a very disagreeable side to my nature. And you don't want to meet me on a disagreeable day. And I'm feeling disagreeable because it's probably really not going to go well for you. This is another way that I like to put it. Each one of us, whether we want to recognize it or not, okay, each one of us has an inner monster. And we have to have that inner monster or that inner caveman, that inner wild man or woman. And that inner caveman, wild man, monster is there for our benefit and our protection. Because if a woman, for instance, is riding on a train in the middle of the night, which I wouldn't recommend in an urban area, in the subway or whatever, I wouldn't recommend as a young woman riding on the train in the middle of the night. I think that's just really actually quite stupid. Speaking as somebody who's actually done it rather a lot when I was younger, and not with a particularly high level of fear, but with a lot of close scrapes in there at the same time. the woman that has that inner monster, when she's attacked, she's going to be the one who leaves her attacker lying in the middle of the aisle, and she's going to walk away from that incident instead of her being the one who disappears into the darkness, never to be seen again. That's the way it is in urban centres now. That's the way it is. That's the way it's been in urban centres for many, many years. Okay? It's the person who knows about their inner monster that is going to survive in these coming times. And there's simply no other way to put it. Okay? Now that monster has to have a box or a cage. And most of the time, it has to live in the box or the cage. Because you can't just go manifesting your inner monster left, right, and center, because you probably do deserve. If you're somebody who, shows off their inner monster left, right, and center, you probably belong in prison. You know, you had in the bottom of the hour news, 50% of prisoners, violent criminals, being released. These people don't know how to control their inner monsters. They're going to be on the street in, New Jersey or wherever in the next few weeks because of COVID-19. Wow. What was I talking about? Cascading domino effect. COVID-19. COVID-19. This is it. These people know about their inner monsters. They're well acquainted with them. And they're going to go out. They're going to go robbing. They're going to go destroying stuff. They're going to go molesting people, raping them, killing them, whatever. And they don't care. These are highly disagreeable people. These are like on the 100th percentile, the top 90 percentile of disagreeable people. Well, guess what? Jordan Peterson actually has a personality test that, it costs $10 to do his personality test, which is really pretty reasonable, actually, because, he's like the top psychiatrist on the earth at the moment, and you can see your full personality profile according to Jordan Peterson for like $10. Wow. And this is not a paid promotion. This is just, if you're interested in your personal psychological profile of what sort of a person you really are, which I would advise people to find out what sort of person they really, really are. Because then they know what they're dealing with, because you are the one person you can never ever run from. So you better learn to live with yourself, and you better learn to deal with yourself and control yourself as well. And not just, in the manner of disagreeableness, but in the manner of agreeableness, to not be too agreeable. And, various of, you need to know your own personality flaws, which we all have, and you need to work with them. Now, Jordan Peterson's website for his personality test, this is not his main website. This is just one that he owns, and he sells his personality test through this website. And it is www.understandmyself.com. That's UNDERSTANDMYSELF.com. Understandmyself.com. Okay? You can go there, you can buy one of his personality tests. He takes PayPal and he takes credit cards. This is not a paid promotion, but it is a website that I have found useful. And he's really a pretty amazing guy. and go onto YouTube and listen to some of his lectures. He has short snippets of 10 minutes long for those people out there who can't stand to listen to a 2 or 3 hour lecture. For me personally, I love 2 or 3 hour lectures. I download them. Here's another site. You'll have to use it with a proxy. It will not work in many parts of the world without a proxy, okay, including Australia, because, you know, so many sites in Australia don't work without VPN or proxy. It's the download site where you can download just about any YouTube video, okay, is www.y2mate.com. There are others as well, but y2mate.com works the best. You'll be able to cut and paste your link into the search box. The search will come up, and then you need to click the download link. It'll download links for you. You click the download link, and then it'll also put up another web page which you need to close, okay? Because, you know, these websites that they open, they are often not the best websites. Let me just put it that way. So, you know, if it opens up any other browser windows or any other tabs or whatever, you need to close them. But that's how you download, you know, things like Jordan Peterson lectures off of YouTube. Is you go to y2mate.com and you paste the link into the search bar, and then you press the search, and then you press download, and it will create a download, and then you authorize download. Close any background browser windows that open and download it. And that's how you do it. So you download them, you put them on your MP3 player, MP4 player, and you listen to them while you're doing your garden work or your farm work. And that's what I do. That's how I educate myself. Hello, everybody. This is Guineith Isaacs speaking, keeping the chair warm for Vincent today. He's still got a bit of farm work to catch up on. And we're talking today about the psychology and the psychiatry of preparedness and what sort of a person you will have to be, and the importance of knowing who you are and knowing about the various components of your personality and your nature and your inner person. And particularly, we're focusing at the moment on disagreeableness, okay? And that agreeableness is the part of your nature that enables you to get along with other people, but disagreeableness is the part of your nature that makes you difficult to get along with. And to be always easy to get along with, you end up being a pushover. Okay, you end up being a doormat. And you don't want to be a pushover and a doormat. That's called being a victim. And victims don't survive. You do not need to be a victim. You need to have enough of that inner monster on the inside of you, most of the time in its box or in its cage, but ready to unleash the dogs mentally if you have to. Now, what are the traits of a disagreeable person? Disagreeable people are argumentative. They like arguments. They are people who don't follow the rules. They are people who don't like the police. They are people who enjoy not following the rules. Okay? Most people, the society sets up a set of rules, right? And it says if you follow the rules, then you're a good person, and then if you don't follow the rules, then you're a bad person. Most people psychologically want to be good people, so they follow the rules that are set up by the society. And they think that they're good people because they follow the rules. Now, what if the rules say that it's okay for you to rip your baby limb from limb or get its brain sucked out and that you're still a good person? You might think that's kind of horrible, but that's the society that we live in. Now, me personally, that creates a high level of disgust and revulsion and anger when I hear about that sort of thing happening, and sadness as well when I hear about that happening, when I hear that girls in my local high school are, 15 or 16 years old and have already had 2 or 3 abortions. That makes me want to cry. But somehow it's according to our society's rules. That's not right. Okay? That creates, that makes me angry and it makes me sad. And, yeah, it should make all of us angry and sad. And if it did, then maybe our society wouldn't be like that anymore. But like I said, that's according to our society's rule that, that girls and women have the quote-unquote right to do that to their own children, and that if you get upset about that, then you're somehow a bad person. Well, I would get upset if I saw people torturing animals, puppies or whatever. And I would get upset if I saw people willfully torturing children. And that's right. It's right to get upset about such things. But, I'm saying this to demonstrate how following the rules does not necessarily make you a good person. And not following the rules does not necessarily make you a bad person. Because, for example, what if the rules say that you're a goat farmer and you can't sell your milk, but you've got a family to feed, and that's the only thing your family has ever known how to do is raise goats. I'm just picking an example out of the air here. It's the right thing and it's the good thing for you to do is to be a disagreeable person and to disobey the rules in that context. That is the right thing and the good thing for you to do, and you should be able to do that with a clean conscience, and you should be very disagreeable towards people who try and stop you in that circumstance, because this is your family and this is your livelihood. And your family and your livelihood come before any set of arbitrary rules. I can hear the music again. That means we're at the top of the hour break. So I'll see you all on the other side of the hour. Hello, everybody. This is Guineith Isaacs speaking here. Keeping the chair warm for Vincent this morning. And, oh, my gosh, in the top of the hour news, an excellent case in point of how being just a little bit disagreeable saved somebody's life, okay? If you're a combat Marine, if you're in any branch of the military, or if you are a blue team member, you have been trained to be disagreeable, okay? Soldiers are trained to kill. That is their job. And they are trained, on one level, they're trained to follow the rules, but on another level, they're trained to survive and to have a slightly, or more of a slightly disagreeable nature. This combat Marine, but the parents of that little baby in the car were probably very, very nice, agreeable people who kept to all the rules, including the rule that you should not be carrying knives on your person. They didn't have a knife on them And because of that, their car was burning, the baby was in the baby seat, and the heat from the fire was expanding the catch in the baby seat, and they couldn't get it open. They didn't have a knife, and they couldn't get their baby out of the baby seat because they were nice, agreeable people. They didn't have knives on them. If they were gangsters, they probably wouldn't have been an issue. They just would have pulled out their, shiv and just cut that seat, the seat belt, and they would have gotten the baby out themselves, but they probably weren't gangsters. I would say they were nice, normal, agreeable, suburban people who didn't go carrying knives on their person. And it just so happened that a less agreeable person, being a combat Marine, off-duty or retired or whatever, came along. He had his combat knife on him. Woohoo! He was able to use that combat knife to get the baby out of the baby seat. And that baby is alive and is going to grow up and, have a life and not have died in a massive ball of flames because somebody disagreeable came along. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I could not have asked for a better case in point. This is just perfect. This is just exactly what I'm talking about. We all need to be that bit less agreeable. We need to not follow the rules as much. Now, I need to put my regular disclaimer in here. I'm not talking about going around randomly hurting innocent people, okay? But what I am talking about is thinking, not being a sheep, not just doing what you're told just because somebody wearing a suit told you to, okay? When it's clearly not in your best interests, Another case in point from the top of the hour news, once again. Thank you very much, townhall.com. You do a fantastic job. The Moderna vaccine has been fast-tracked. My gosh, that's one of the worst. That's the one that goes in and reprograms your RNA. If you take it, then you probably deserve a Darwin Award, It goes in, it reprograms your DNA and your RNA, shuts down your Krebs cycle. If you want to know what Krebs cycle is, it's the furnace that's in your cells. It's what converts glucose to energy inside your cells. And if you have a malfunctioning Krebs cycle, you're going to die. And that's just how it is, okay? It's absolutely perfectly balanced. Your glucose metabolism in your body is absolutely, it's got about 26 steps. It's perfectly balanced. It works fine most of the time. I mean, probably most of the people in the class up until today have never even heard of the Krebs cycle. That's Krebs cycle. But if you want to become really, really ill really, really quick, you go messing with your Krebs cycle, and you will find out about it, and you will probably not live very long after that. The DNA, the Moderna vaccine, goes into the mitochondria, which is where the Krebs cycle operates, and it messes with the Krebs cycle. So, oh my gosh, you just don't do that. All right? So this is the one that's being fast-tracked. Oh yeah, and what else it does is it goes and it shuts down your chromosome 8. What chromosome 8 does is it makes you, it's the chromosome that balances agreeableness and disagreeableness. People with chromosome 8 disorders have an IQ of about 80, so they're not the sharpest tools in the box, but they are exceptionally nice people, which once again, oh my gosh, that's exactly what we're talking about. And the Moderna vaccine is the one that goes into your cells, it shuts down the Krebs cycle, it reprograms the RNA, reprograms the mitochondria, which are the little furnaces in the cells. That's where the Krebs cycle happens. And goes and reprograms chromosome 8, makes it malfunction, gets rid of your survival instincts, gets rid of all of the, the caveman, the highwayman, the part of you that is the inner predator, the part of you that does not have a problem with breaking a rabbit's neck to make soup, with beheading chickens to make soup. I'm sorry if there's any, or actually I'm not sorry. I better be honest here. I'm not sorry. If there's anyone in the class who's a vegan, you need to stop, okay? And you need to realize that you need protein, that you are, that humans are predators. We are a predatory species. We are meat eaters, okay? We are primates, great apes, okay? And basically all the great apes at some level are predators. They do eat a lot of fruit and they eat a lot of vegetables. They are omnivores. But all of the great apes have been observed to be hunters. And we are hunters. I'm not saying that evolution's true, by the way, but I'm saying that our facial morphology, the fact that we have hands with opposable thumbs, the fact that we have a high-level thought process, okay, the fact that we have forward binocular vision, and our dental structure, our ear structure, our social structure, and the fact that we are bipedal, primate, this makes us a great ape, biologically. Now, spiritually, we are the children of the living God. We are both, okay? We were created on day 6 of creation, which was, I believe, about 6,000 years ago. So just clearing that all up for anybody out there, but we logically are great apes. And all the great apes are all omnivorous, at least some of the time, because they have to be. They're so big. There's no way that they can live on just plant matter. Okay? Biologically, you are a predator. Okay? There is a part of your brain that is very predatory, that is wired for that. Okay? And that's why it feels good to run. It feels good to chase someone. Okay? It feels good to play games like football. This is all a release of that predator go and catch it instinct. When you're playing football and you go and tackle the guy and grab him around the waist and you pull him down into the ground, you just have a great time, have a lot of fun. But this is the reason why that feels good to do that, is because it's a modification of the predatory instinct that we all, as humans, have. And if you can deal with that and integrate it and realize that, that is what makes you human. That is what puts you at the top of the food chain. It's what stops you from being a sheep. the whole society at the moment is at war against this concept of humans being meat eaters, humans being, predatory beings, of humans being top order predators. Every other animal on the planet's frightened of us. Wolves and lions and bears are frightened of us. They avoid us. Because of that, not many people, wolf attacks and bear attacks and lion attacks are pretty rare. Even in parts of the world where wolves, lions and bears are very common. Wolves, lions and bears are top order predators, okay? But they're all frightened of us, humans, because we go hunting them, and when we decide that we want to go hunting wolves, lions and bears, they die. That's how we are as humans. That is the disagreeable side of the human nature. That is the side of the human nature that nobody wants to talk about, but it's the side of the human nature that keeps us alive. And when the controller begins to hit the propeller, it's the disagreeable people that will be left standing. And I can hear the music again, and that means we're heading into another break. So I'll see you all in a few minutes. Hello, this is Guineith Isaacs speaking here. We're just talking today about disagreeableness and agreeableness and being psychologically prepared for the things that are coming down the track. Now, I've just gone into, in the previous segment, that we all need to be aware that we are top-order predators, and that we need to own that. We need to realize that as humans, that's who we are. But we also need to, realize that we have to be sociable. We can't just go hurting other people randomly, okay? We need to be good people, but we don't need to be nice, because there's a difference between being good and being nice. I'm sure that the people who had that baby in the little baby harness in the car, I'm sure that they were nice people, but they weren't. They were too agreeable. They didn't have a knife on them. They weren't able to cut the baby out of the harness. And because of that, if a combat Marine who was a less nice person hadn't come along and got out his combat knife, cut the harness and pulled the baby out, they would be grieving now. They would have lost their baby. Their baby would have been blown to pieces when that car blew up, moments after the combat Marine pulled the baby out of the harness. That is an excellent case in point. Now, there's another area of the psyche. I think I've discussed agreeableness and disagreeableness enough. There's another area of the psyche that we need to discuss, and that is the area of disgust. Okay. Disgust is an interesting one because it's what keeps us clean. It's what keeps us reasonably hygienic. It's what keeps us from being that hoarder that, fills their house so full with junk that they can't move. We all know the sort of person. It's what keeps us from being the cat lady down the road, but most people, but disgust also has its flip side, okay? And that is if a person has a very high level of disgust, they become a neat freak, okay? And in a survival situation, a neat freak germaphobe is not what you want to be, because there's going to be situations where you might have to live off roadkill, or there might be a carcass of an animal that's in the forest that's been killed by something like a lion, or, depending on where you are, mountain lion. There's mountain lions in the forest where I live. There's black panthers in the forest where I live. Other people have seen the mountain lions. They were released by GIs that were, those American soldiers that were based around here after World War II, and they had pumas, mountain lions, as their mascot. They were ordered to take them out into the forest and shoot them, and of course they couldn't do that, so they just let them go. Apparently there was a boy one and there was a girl one, and they went and made baby mountain lions, and there's been mountain lions in the forest around here ever since. And there are other regiments that had black panthers, same story. So you see the carcasses sometimes on the road. I've actually seen a black panther when I've been out on a horse ride here. They lunch on carcasses, roadkill carcasses, and they hunt the kangaroos. Now, if you're starving and if you're in a forest and you come across some panther kill, you might have to get over your level of disgust to get a meal out of that carcass. So we'll talk about more disgust after the bottom of the hour news. Hello, everybody. This is Guineith Isaacs speaking today, keeping the chair warm for Vincent. And we've been talking today about the psychology of preparedness and what manner of person you will have to be if you are going to survive in what is coming down the track, and in many parts of the world, what is here. And we've gone into, agreeableness versus disagreeableness. And now we're talking about neatness versus disgust. Okay? And just before the, bottom of the hour news, I was talking about how in a survival situation that your survival could actually depend on you modifying your levels of disgust. Okay? Like, for instance, if you found a road-killed deer, or a deer that had been killed by wolves or bears, probably not wolves, there wouldn't be much left of it if it was killed by a wolf, because they just devour everything. There's nothing left after a wolf kill. But pumas, mountain lions especially, what they tend to do is they will bring down a carcass and they will rip its guts open. They will eat the organs, okay, so the heart, the lung, the kidneys, the liver, and they'll leave the rest of the carcass. They're just not particularly interested in it. They're a gigantic kitty cat. But instead of lunching on mice, they lunch on antelopes and stuff, deer, stuff like that. So, this is it. So you'll get a carcass that has been, lunched on by a puma or a panther, and it'll have, it'll have its guts ripped open all over the place. Okay? They don't like the intestines, so they pull the intestines out. If anybody out there is squeamish, just tune out, please. Okay? Because I have to talk about this. This is to do with disgust. So it is going to sound disgusting to a lot of people out there. But it will not be a pleasant sight. But you'll find that the haunches often are pretty well intact. The neck, maybe not so. It's a bit closer to the head. It might be, a bit more damaged, a bit more maggoty or whatever. But the haunches, the rump of it will often be intact, Here in Australia, where, you get road-killed kangaroo, the tail and the back legs are the best bit, and they are often left intact, but the rest of the carcass is pretty gross. You don't want to have anything to do with it, whatever. Use your imagination, people. But this is what I'm talking about. You need to get over that element of disgust to harvest that haunch off of that deer, okay, that's been killed by a truck or by a puma or by a, bear, the other creature that tends to, they are predatory to some extent. They will catch and kill creatures like, deer and antelopes and all the rest of it. But once again, they tend to go for the organ meat. And they tend to leave the rest of the carcass alone. Not always, just depends. If they're really hungry, they'll eat the whole thing. But if they're not particularly hungry, then, they just want a snack, then they'll just eat the organ meat. You'll have to get over your level of disgust to harvest that haunch. Okay? That's just how it is. So, what else can I say? Your ancestors used to live like this, and the world is going back to living like this, whether you like it or not. And psychologically, you're going to have to deal with it. On another level, the disgust instinct is a very important one because of it's what keeps us clean, okay? And cleanliness comes with hygiene, okay? It's what stops us from defecating in random places. It's very, very important to not just defecate in random places. If you're finding yourself in a homeless situation, get a sharp stick and dig a hole. That's what you need to do. Okay? And if you do that, then that will your business will go into the ground, it will rot into the ground, and it will make a little fertile patch where you can maybe plant a tree or a seed, an apple or a peach or whatever it is that you've managed to get from wherever you get it from. And then the next year it'll grow an apple tree or a peach tree, and then, you've made the world a better place just from the useful use of your disgust instinct. Not wanting to just look at random piles of manure, of your own manure. That's the proper use of the disgust instinct, okay? But like I said, if you are a neat freak and a germaphobe and all the rest of it, you will not survive in this coming situation because things are going to be a lot less clean, neat, and tidy generally. And if you let it get to you, you'll find it will be a psychological barrier to you moving forward. And of course, you should make things look beautiful. Of course, you should try and keep a clean environment. Try and keep a clean campsite. That's because you'll avoid problems with rats and raccoons and creatures like that. That are attracted to mess, that are scavengers. Okay. But if you have to deal with something like I said, like a road-killed or lion-killed or bear-killed animal, just get over the disgust thing. harvest the meat that you need to harvest from that carcass. Okay, take it home to your family and your family will eat. This is it. This is what I'm talking about with the use of psychology. There's another area of the disgust thing that I have to talk about, and that is that you may have to deal with wound treatment. Okay, you may have to deal with infected wounds, and you need to up your disgust threshold when dealing with an infected wound in order to treat that infected wound. Or even if it's not infected, you need to, but if there's a lot of blood, if there's a lot of gore, I don't know if it's gone into the abdomen, if it's a gunshot wound, in order for that person who's been injured to survive, you're going to have to get over the disgust. You're going to have to put it in its box, okay? And just say, listen, we're going to deal with this. Here's a wound, and deal with it. You know, stitch him up, get the pus out of the wound, and, you know, burn the, you know, then afterwards the disgust can be switched back on when you're throwing the, you know, the grotty dressings into the fire. And then you turn your disgust back on, and, you know, when the wound has been cleaned and medicated and had some sort of ointment put on it and all that sort of thing, then you can look at that wound and say, nice. It's a funny thing. To deal with the mess, you have to face the fact that there's a mess. And you need to stop being grossed out by it. And that's just how it is. And, you know, because people's lives are going to depend on you psychologically knowing how to deal with your disgust instinct and with your, disagreeableness and with all of these other facets of your personality. Your own survival, but also the survival of the people who are dependent on you, is going to depend on whether you know how to appropriately deal with these instincts, whether you appropriately deal with your predatory instinct, okay? Direct it at the meat that's standing out there on four hooves on the paddock, okay? And direct your predatory instinct at those people who are monsters who want to destroy you and your family, who want to take your children away. Because if they take those kids away, you're not going to see the kids again. You need to fight with all your being to protect those children, okay? And to not feel bad about it afterwards is the biggest thing. You know, to say, well, yay, and to even to celebrate the fact that you have kept your children safe. Even if it's meant that you have had to seriously hurt someone, okay? You need to not feel bad about the fact that you've had to seriously hurt somebody to protect yourself, okay? You need to not feel sorry for them because, you know, you're not the one who, you know, made them attack you. You know, it's their own stupid fault for thinking that they could prey upon you. And that's the reason why now they're in a world of hurt. Because they tried to hurt you. You need to get, and this is proper, normal human psychology. This is proper, normal human behavior. And in our society, in our modern world, we've gotten so far away from that. Everything's been flipped on its head, and we have forgotten how to be human. And this is all what I've been talking about for the past almost 2 hours now. It's just talking about being human. And After the break, I'll wind it up. And because this is the last segment. And, yeah, just say that this is how we are. And this is how things are going to be. Hello, everybody. This is Guineith Isaacs speaking here. And, this is the final segment. So we're going to wind it up now. Dealing with this issue of, your own personal psychology. We all vary in our psychology. There are people, and each of our individual psychologies is more or less fixed. We can alter it to a certain extent, but we will always have some tendencies more than others. But we can balance our own psychology to some degree. We can make ourselves better people. We all have psychological strengths. We all have psychological weaknesses. And in closing, I would like to just remind people of Jordan Peterson's excellent psychological test, which will give you basically your personality profile. You can go to understandmyself.com. This is not a paid promotion. This is just a website that I found to be very useful. Okay? So when we come across websites like this on USA Prepares, we share them because they're useful. And you can find out your psychological strengths, your psychological weaknesses. And in closing, I would like to say, your psychology is wired from a very basic, primitive level, even if you think you're this modern, sophisticated, computerized human. That is entirely surface level. Once you scratch the surface, you will find that you have the very same primitive psychology that all of your ancestors had. Okay? And you'll find that some of your ancestors were very, very good people. Some of them were very, very bad people. But one thing that Jordan Peterson says, there's one thing that all of your ancestors were absolutely successful at. And that's the reason why you're here. They all propagated the species. That is the most important thing of all. If you have children, they need to be at the top of your priority list, okay? And if you get somebody from the outside, whether it's CPS types, schools, whatever, that are telling you to do something with your children that your gut instinct says is not going to be good for your children, you need to say no, and you need to dig your heels in, and you need to, as it says in the Bible, set your forehead like flint. You need to get that little hard sparkle in your eye and you say you're not doing it. Whether that is a vaccination or whether that is, some sort of court system ruling. And if that means upping your tent pegs and getting out of there, then you need to do that. And your children are so important. I cannot really emphasize that enough. At some time you have to launch them onto the world, and then they have to make their own decisions. You have to prepare them as best you can to survive in the real world. But especially when they're little, they need to be the absolute priority of your life, of your whole. You need to invest your entire being into raising those children. You need to not outsource it. You need to really, really be there for them, to educate them, to try and give them your wisdom and to basically to give them the best chance of survival that you possibly can think of in all areas. So teaching them how to keep animals and grow food and all the rest of it. And that's all a necessary part of human survival. And the reason why you need to do that is that you are mortal. That means you're going to die one day. But if you have children and, you know, they grow up and they propagate in the future, then your DNA doesn't die when you do. Your DNA goes into the future. And if you can do that, if you can raise your children, and if you can have a balanced psychology, then you've succeeded. You've managed to bring yourself in the DNA of your children into the future. Now, I can hear the music. That's the end of the broadcast. God bless you all. Vincent will be on hour number 2 next on Friday, and I'll be joining you again on Friday. God bless you all, and I'll see you later.